it should be illegal to feel this good. Like, what an opportunity we have that's in front of us every single day. We get to do this together. Everyone going through their own thing off the field or outside the weight room. And, being a coach and being a strength coach is not just, hey, let's come up with the best programming possible to identify and eliminate your weaknesses. It's, we are here for you no matter what.
I've had to go on 6 different interviews to get 6 different head jobs from 6 different people. And I don't think one of them really asked about my periodization plan or the amount we're going to squat in season. Like they feel something from you and they can tell right away, is this the guy I want leading my guys? And you got to win the kids. So you can't have lines out the door to do an FMS screen test on day one. You got to create energy.
We're so very fortunate to have 3 phenomenal partners of the podcast. Play, Rock Daisy, and Output are all companies that I've worked with for many years and fully endorse. Make sure that you support them when you can, or let them know when you see them how much you appreciate them being part of this podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to the CEO Strength Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Ron McKeefery, and I've been waiting for this episode for a while now. Ever since I had the idea of doing these roundtable episodes, I had this idea of having, specifically even Lew and Alex on. Lew Caralla is the head strength coach at Rice, director of strength and conditioning there. Alex is a strength and conditioning director at Northwestern. These guys for a while, both do it the right way. They freaking players love them. They'll run through a wall for them, and they're doing the job at a really high level. But I wanted to get into just this topic of like motivation and how, that's perceived sometimes by the outside world. But fellas, appreciate you taking the time. I know it's tough in season to do this, but I think everybody's going to get a lot out of this one.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Coach. Always thankful for you my whole career and just honored to be on your podcast again.
Appreciate
Absolutely,
that.
Coach. I second that. Really excited to be on here, and it's great for young strength coaches to have strength coaches to look up to in the field, and we're blessed to have so many, and you two are an absolute prime example of that. So I appreciate you guys.
Well, I appreciate that, fellas, and feelings mutual in a lot of ways. I want to kind of dig into that, what I just said. Like, both of you guys have had kind of these viral moments in the field, whether it's, ESPN picking it up on social or articles being written about something that, that you used as either a motivational tactic or a leadership message or something along those lines. I know, I'm sure those things were met with both positive and negative, right? Even within our own community, even within our own peers. Let's start off with Alex. Why don't we start off with you and just kind of talk briefly about that kind of viral moment? I think that everybody maybe knows what that is, but talk briefly about that moment and then how you were met with both positive and negative during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sometimes, given what we do, we have an unbelievable opportunity to be in front of these guys every single day, right? And being a strength coach, you're a piece of the puzzle. Being a part of a strength staff, being a part of a football program, you get to be in front of these young men every single day. And, you got to practice what you preach, and you got to be a phenomenal example. You got to pave the path for them to dominate and sprint down. And I think that, one of my superpowers that I've gotten from my family, my parents were both born in Greece. They came here to Chicago, which is the best city in the world. And they lived in apartments where your neighbors were 5 feet away from you, in front of you, behind you, left to right. Everybody spoke a different language, and you had to learn to love your neighbor and trust your community, because it took everybody to raise a special family and to have a chance at doing this thing the right way. And I think that, when I found out what being a strength coach was, because I played football at Robert Morris University, that's now in the GLIAC, and it's now Roosevelt University. And I also played at JUCO, right, where, you had nobody in the stands. You had so much love in the locker room. You had so much passion. And it wasn't about anybody else seeing it or any kind of social media outlet taking it and portraying it in a certain way. It was just about that genuine passion of doing it for each other, man. I mean, I've been blessed to work in the field of UFC. Been training a UFC fighter who's a champion, Juliana Pena, and I've been blessed to work with her for so long. And when she goes into the cage, she closes it behind her, and it's one-on-one, and you don't have anybody else. And football's different. It's so unique. I mean, there's a million different positions that have different crafts. You got to be so good at different traits. then, offensive linemen, skill positions, everybody's got to bring such a unique thing to the table. And it's such a team game. And so going through, what people don't understand what the offseason is every single day, from the early mornings in January all the way through the spring balls and the offseason modes, and then going into camp and going in season, you got to have the perspective of, man, it should be illegal to feel this good. Like, what an opportunity we have that's in front of us every single day. We get to do this together. Everyone going through their own thing off the field or outside the weight room. And, being a coach and being a strength coach is not just, hey, let's come up with the best programming possible to identify and eliminate your weaknesses. It's, we are here for you no matter what. And we're going to go through this shit with you. And we're going to be doing it with you and alongside you. And we're going to take you where you can't take yourself. But you want to build a culture that's, man, I can't wait to show up every single day and pour it on the line for the people in that building, coaches and players, and doing it together. We're going to win together. And that's where sometimes on game day, right, being naive and oblivious to what camera's on or what's looking and what's going on, it's really just that the genuine relationships at the end of the day that are the foundation of the culture that provides such a special opportunity to give it your all every single day for the players and have them do it for each other. Obviously, that was met with, positivity. It was met with a lot of negativity. I don't buy into either one. I just focus on what more I can do to maximize my piece of the puzzle and how I could continue to just be here and to do more for the student athletes here. And that's really what it's about, trying to do everything you can for them.
Yeah, that's great. I know, Lou, for you, we worked together, right? You've been on my staff before, and when you've had a couple of different moments that have been picked up that way, whether it's walking on the plates when everybody's doing the wall sit, or it's the leadership message, or some various different things throughout the years. I know, me personally, how I felt when I saw some negativity in the social media around some of those things. Like, I felt like freaking Papa Bear and I was going to go fight somebody, and even had a very direct conversation with a coach, that was a friend of mine that said something negative at that time and affected our friendship even, and so, like, when those things happen and you got peers that, that should understand the job, understand everything that Alex just said about the passion and the energy and what it takes to get players to run through a wall and come back and pick up the pieces. Like, how do you handle that kind of, messaging out there?
Well, I mean, I'd say that, the first time anything went viral for me was that Louisiana wall sit. And it was honestly kind of scary for me because I didn't know like how scary that got with the attention that automatically came with it. So that was a Friday finisher for the lineman. Our intern filmed it, and we had a little Twitter account for our school that we would post stuff and share pictures with our guys. And I told him to not post that. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to look good. Don't do that. So that night, he posted it on his personal account instead. And he's like, Coach, the next morning he came in, he's like, I'm so sorry. Like, it has like 10,000 retweets and you're on Sports Center. I'm like, oh my God, no. It was almost like the opposite of what I was hoping to get. Like, I just wanted a good finisher, but it ended up being on Bleacher Report. And that's kind of how it goes. I mean, everywhere I've been, as you know, Coach, I've given a message of the day to the players after every lift, after every run, and it turned into a book eventually. But like, that's just what I thought I should do as a head strength coach. That's what I believed in I needed as a player. Like I wanted that stuff poured into my life. So a lot of these kids don't have dads, and I think that's where everyone doesn't understand in the world. Like, they need a male figure to pour positive like encouragement into their life. And yeah, Georgia Tech got carried away. They would post like every message I gave. And then I will say this too, like, people don't know what's going on in your own building. Like, if your coach tells you to put weights on the sideline, you got to put weights on the sideline. And I'm sorry, you just have to do it. Whether I wanted to or not, or thought it was kind of silly, it didn't matter. That was my job. So the negativity that comes with it, yeah, it stinks getting labeled like that, honestly, by people that, you want respect from. But at the end of the day, man, it's like Alex said, you're just trying to do a good job where you're at and to be yourself in that moment.
Yeah, I think what people don't realize a lot of times is to get 125 alphas to run through that wall, come back, pick up the pieces, and then turn around and come back the next day and do it again. Like, it takes, you're walking an extreme sometimes, and sometimes those extremes go maybe a little too far. Sometimes externally it doesn't make sense in the context of the situation. But, to create belief and to create buy-in from your players, like, I don't care if you are the best programmer in the world. if you don't get them to believe in what you're doing, like your days are numbered, and I know both you guys get that. Talk a little bit about like the importance of belief and flirting with that line of like, man, this is like, how this might be perceived, or it just doesn't fit in the scientific textbook of how you should be developing a player with a finisher or whatever. But like, I know, and you guys know, having played college ball, like you need to know that your body can do something it didn't think it could do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, at the end of the day, you're preparing them for life as well, right? It's not just about football, and there's a lot of obstacles in life when you become someone who's heavily responsible and counted on for to pay the bills and do what you got to do, and you got to be a really great performer at your job. This environment that we live in is unbelievable because every day you're putting obstacles and barriers in front of these guys, and they just got to first believe in themselves, believe in each other, and every day is an opportunity to overcome something that I think that shows and displays tremendous toughness. Like, who can you be every single day, not just one day? And I think everybody's own unique personality within themselves, it's the best goal is to find their true potential. And when you see somebody that the beauty of college, man, you get someone when they're a freshman and you see it through every year, and you're just a piece of the puzzle that helps them unlock the best version of themselves. And you see that confidence is power. And when they have that power, not only do they succeed on the football field, but they're able to handle any adversity that comes. Because guess what? In football, there's a lot of adversity. In life, there's a lot of adversity. So when we get to be a part of that, it's truly special. But back to your point, Coach, none of that happens without truly believing in themselves and them establishing that work ethic to overcome anything. I mean, how great is it when you get to show up into a setting and get it underneath the bar when you don't know what's going to happen? Sometimes you don't know if it's going to come up, right? But you got to put yourself in that situation where you don't know the outcome. It brings me back to a video that I saw of Coach Lew's, man. Like, are you willing to sprint when the distance is unknown, right? Like, that stuck with me, Coach. So I'm really happy I saw that. I'm really happy you did that, right? Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of players that have a lot of potential. We all have weaknesses, and our mind could be the biggest one. We can't be afraid to go in any situation. And I think that's why it's so important that sometimes it's not going to be in the textbook. It's going to be a finisher. It's going to be certain things certain adversities that they're faced with that you watch a team form when they overcome those things together. It's truly special.
Yeah. You mentioned performance in there. And quite honestly, that's kind of how I always felt a little bit. There's a big difference between Coach Mack and Ron McKeefery. Ron McKeefery he's an introverted. He's like very mission driven, very focused. So like Coach Mack every once in a while had to crack a joke or cuss a kid out or, do whatever it needed to be done to get the message across in that moment. That would wear me out to some degree, as being that guy. And so I'd have to recharge and whatnot. But like, do you guys kind of look at it that way where like you're almost playing a little bit of a character, with developing this team, and then there's a difference between the person that goes home at night and the person that's at work?
I guess I'll add to a bunch of things you asked, but I don't know, Coach. Like when I was an intern for you, I truly admired the way you just worked. Like you were just so, in my opinion, very just organized and driven would be how I define you, and also just motivating for a young coach to watch because like all I wanted to do was be you one day. Like that's you and Matt Bayless and Aaron Wellman were like heroes for me. So I really just looked at you having that personality of serious, demanding, but also rewarding and treating people well. So you had a great mix as Coach Mack, I thought. I would say this is like exactly who I am every day. I, and from the belief standpoint of the question, like I've had to go on 6 different interviews to get 6 different head jobs from 6 different people. And like that, yes, like you said, Coach, I don't think one of them really asked about my periodization plan or the amount we're going to squat in season. Like they feel something from you and they can tell right away, is this the guy I want leading my guys? And there's something in your heart that has to resemble the program that you have written down, because if it can't come out of your heart, it doesn't matter what's on the paper. So, and then you got to win the interview and then you got to win the kids. So I've had 6 different day ones where I don't lift weights right away. I just barge into a locker room, start a mosh pit, and then we go from facility to facility and create some energy and do some competitions. And then we come back later that afternoon and have our lift groups. But I don't think you can get that back from kids and excite them. And you can't have lines out the door to do an FMS screen test on day one.
That's right.
You got to create energy. And I think that's where a lot of people are forgetting now because they're getting paid. And yes, becoming more of a business. And you can still keep it exciting. You can still have some fun with these kids too, and get the job done at the way everyone else does.
Yeah, I would argue that it's even more important to create that kind of energy and that kind of attention, because that's what you're trying to do. Is you're trying to break the monotony of them going to meetings, going to class, going to lift, go to, like you're trying to disrupt that pattern to create some energy and for them to go to a higher level than they want to go in that moment. That takes a lot of effort. And I think what both you guys said, it pours over in both you guys. I mean, the authenticity and the passion, like it is who you are. And I would argue the same with me as well. Like that is who I am. Like I'm a genuinely nice guy, but like at the same time, like I'm going to make the people around me better. And that's my goal. That's my goal in life. I think you mentioned kind of the job interviews and working for coaches. And I think a lot of people don't realize like if the coach tells you to be the get back coach and you got to grab the guy by the belt and yank his ass back, like, I've got a PhD. Like, I don't want to necessarily do that, but if that's what it takes on game day for us to freaking be focused and win, like, I don't care. It's like, it's not a big deal to me. Why is that such a big deal to some of these strength coaches out there where they just like, well, he's an adult. You should just tell him to get back and he should get back. Like, where's that line, you think?
I mean, I think it's exactly how you guys both have said it with Coach Lew and Coach McKeefery. You alluded to it, but it's different in every other facility, right? It's all no task too small and no stage too big, right? Like we're not too big to do any small tasks. That's not what our profession's about. And that's not what we're about as leaders. That's not what we're about in terms of being a piece of the puzzle that's supposed to take these guys where they can't take themselves. And so at the end of the day, it's you take any task with pride, and the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So whether it's getting someone back or leading a warm-up on game day, or it's handing out water and helping someone on the support staff doing something for the student athlete, and I think that we would all agree we will do anything for the greater good of the team.
I always said that I think that the strength coach is the master sergeant of leadership position, but like they understand the chain of command. They understand, where they fit in the puzzle. Exactly what you said. No job's too small. No job's too big. And it's those types of things where like, if we expect our soldiers or our athletes to have and play with passion, then we have to demonstrate that ourselves and be able to get our emotional energy to that level on game day and match it in a lot of ways. And because you are the boots on the ground, you are the guy that's in the trenches with the guys. I think that's super important as you go. Lew, why do you think that there is so much like your own in this field? Like why do strength coaches, I mean, it's competitive. I get that. Right. But like, I don't know really too many professions where like you should be celebrating the wins because it is such a tight knit fraternity. When strength and conditioning is even mentioned on Sports Center, like that should be a win, right? But instead, we got people that come out of the woodworks and want to grab their physiology textbook and push up their glasses and say, this isn't the way we should do things. Like, I don't get it. Like, why do we do that?
I think it's hard for people I'll say this, like people hate until they meet you, or people say things until they talk to you. And if you never meet Alex or me or you don't know anything. So you're just going to see something that's general, just like we all see every day on our phone, and we judge it. You can't help judging it. And honestly, like if I saw people doing some of the things that I got caught doing, like walking on kids' laps and they didn't know or my intent, I would have judged that. If they didn't see or know I was being forced to like have a curl bar on our sideline before pregame at Georgia Tech, I would have judged that too. But like it's natural in us to not like people or feel threatened by them. And as soon as anything gets too big, I'm sorry, the positivity leaves with it. Like that thing goes and it's jet fuel of negativity. So it's just the way the world is, and it's unfortunate for sure. But I really believe like all those people hating, if you actually confronted them or if you actually talked to them, they wouldn't hate you. They would actually understand completely. So it's not, it used to bother me, but now it's just like, I know it's part of it.
Yeah. You said something there that's super important. That this was from doing, Iron Game Talk back in the day, and then just making it a point as a young coach to go and visit different coaches and learn from different coaches. there's been 3 good examples. Like Tommy Moffitt wasn't hiring any strength coaches, he was hiring football coaches in the weight room, and I judged that from afar. Then I went and spent a week with him, and I saw, like, how he coached those coaches and the effort they gave and the mindset that they brought, and they were true coaches, and I was like, "Okay, I'm shifting." Cochran, with just being as energetic as he was at Alabama back in the day, like, judge that, but then you spend time like, man, like, to go to that energy level every single day, like, that's a talent. Maybe I don't agree with his philosophy, but that's a talent, right? Aaron Feld, another one, like you're looking at the handlebar mustache and you're like, well, what are you doing? And it wasn't until I talked to each one of those guys and forced myself to do that because I wasn't going to judge them without having a conversation with them that my mindset changed on those individuals. And I think that's such an important piece that you said there that people need to take with you. If you don't like something, you don't understand it, reach out, because this community should be a community that can give you at least an idea behind why they were doing what they were doing. Alex, you mentioned young coaches, right? And I don't know this 100%, but I think you're the youngest of the 3 of us, right? But like, I think, what advice would you give, to young Alex or young Ron or Lou or whoever that's coming up, that is, you're going to have to, like I tell coaches, right? Like, I might do 90% of what I want to do, but like that 10% that the head coach wants to do, I'm going to do the 10% because I need a job, right? And I'm going to try to educate her along the lines. Or if we're on game day and when it's a freaking big game, like, I'm going to freaking run through, I'm going to jump up and down and I'm going to hoop and holler just like the next guy. Like, it's a big game. What advice would you tell the young coach that's just been pounded with the physiology textbook, that's going to have to come out and freaking and move the emotions of men or women for that matter, to a high level?
I would say be yourself, build the best genuine relationships possible, right? If you build an incredible amount of trust with everybody in the facility and the players, then that's the one thing I feel so lucky. I'm a part of the most incredible staff, and in our staff, you have every age, every walk of life, every different perspective, mentality, and our players love that because they know and love every single coach. And they know that there's so many different forms of coaching. It's not just one style of coaching for every single player. I think that I would also encourage a lot of young strength coaches to understand that any kind of, uncomfortable positions that you may be put in, or if anyone is negative about a situation, that also presents an opportunity to have a conversation, right? And I know, speaking for myself, I've been so lucky to have unbelievable strength coaches in this profession that I have respected for such a long time reach out to me and talk to me at the conventions on the phone about any kind of, social media type stuff or anything in general. And that's been the best part of it, right? It could have been one thing if I took it really, really bad and ran away from it, but a lot of the times it created really great conversations. Just like you said, you went out of your way to get to know certain coaches, learn different things, create new relationships, and create a level of understanding. And I've been really lucky to have such amazing coaches in this field that have wanted to have an opportunity to have a conversation and that have inspired me and have taught me and have been great examples. So I would just say the same thing that we preach to our players. You can't get discouraged, man, right? You got to be yourself. You got to work as hard as you possibly can. You got to build genuine relationships. And that's got to be the foundation of what we do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. You brought up something in there that I think is important. I think there is a point when you do have a moment, whether it's with your head coach, whether it's with a player or something along those lines, where you do have to draw a hard line and be like, this is just not something I'm going to do. I mean, I had this with Coach Creighton, who I love. Like, I played for him, worked for him. He's the guy that, I model myself after in a lot of ways. There was one time he wanted to freaking like stick my head in some water and basically have it to a point where I'm almost out of breath and stick have me pop up and I want to win as bad as I want to breathe. And I'm like, all right, coach, that's maybe a little too far. Like, I think we're going a little too far with this, but I think you do have to have what's the right way to do that, Lou? When you're like, hey, look, I don't think this is like, I think we can get our guys to stay back without, everybody having a personal get back coach or something. Like, how do you go about having that conversation?
I just think you be honest. I mean, I had to do it my last year at Tech. I'm like, coach, like, can I just be honest, man? Like, can we please stop the curl bars on the sideline? Like, I really don't want to do that. And I never have. I've done it because I love you and I'm thankful for you, but please. And he's like, yeah, man, we're good. So I'm like, was it that easy? Could I have done that year one? But I do think, coach, to the question earlier about advice to younger kids, and because I still think about every internship I did and the GAs and the low assistant jobs. And, I kind of ran the gauntlet of being a young kid in this field and just like we all did. But I just wrote something the other day called I'll Do It. And like, I feel like if you have the I'll do it mindset, no matter what, like if Ron McKeefery saying anything in the group, you need to take ownership by saying, I'll do it. Like he needs copies by 1, I'll do it. He needs fruit delivered here, I'll do it. Like he needs anything possible to make his life just a little more convenient. That can set you up for good things. So I feel like you become very valuable by being consistently reliable and dependable. So a lot of the stuff like, yeah, you got your CSCS, great. Okay, you got all these certifications, awesome. You know how to do this and that. But if you don't have I'll do it in your heart, I there's no need for you. Like you're a dime a dozen. So that's what I tried to be for Ron and for Matt and Aaron. And just I really tried to just be like I was on a 1-day contract for those guys, like I was gonna get hired or fired at the end of every day.
Yeah, no, that's such a great point because I think the same thing holds true too. Like you may get to a point where like that head coach is trying to create the culture that he wants to have on game day in the building or whatever. And there's been plenty of times where I've done something that initially that I was like, I don't think I think this is silly. I don't see the point. And then all of a sudden it becomes a part of your fabric. And it's something that you believe in just as much as maybe the leader, right? You see the effect, you see the way that it goes about, and what it does within the organization. And I think that's important that you at least try things and then you have that kind of honest feedback and you're willing to have. And I think the way you framed it is like, I love you. I do it because of you, but like, I don't believe in this. It's hard for me to be who I am if I don't believe in it, and I think that holds true with the players. You guys, we all three of us, like, like the players can read it on my face really quick if I'm doing something I don't want to do. I try not to be that way, but it's the truth. Like it's just who I am. Both you guys are kind of, whether or not you've embraced it. I mean, I always tell Lou that I think you could do more than what you're doing in terms of like the social media and building like the individual brand on top of building the brand for the organization and all those types of things. But you guys have been out there in social media. Like, what's the way to do social media right as a strength coach?
Well, I'll start off with me. To be honest, one day saw a picture on Facebook that I was in, and I scroll over and I see Turbo Strength NU, and I click it, and it took me to an Instagram page. And so all of my friends from home had created an Instagram page under my name. It was not me that did it. And so I demanded that they gave me the username and password because they, kind of did the whole thing and they had it as like a little joke and just amongst themselves of taking the videos and put them on there. And so to be honest, since I've taken it over, I think I've posted one team run workout on the beach that we did. That was awesome. But I have not, I usually use it to share stories of our guys, our players, stuff like that, And so that's one area where been, I've not been very active at all, kind of to focus on just kind of, I'm so locked in on where my feet are, what I'm doing right now and every single day that, maybe to a fault, I'm not really doing as much as I can be or should be doing on social media. But I do know that a lot of our players, they appreciate when their stuff gets shared and their highlights get shared and that gets posted. So I keep that going for them for sure.
That's great. What about you, Luke?
Yeah, I think I've had different opinions at different times in my life. I'll go back to when I was at Michigan as an assistant, and Twitter was brand new to me. So I just tweeted like one motivational quote a week, and that was like my thing for years. And then when I got to Georgia Tech and COVID happened, that's when again, my boss was like, "Hey man, you're going to have to be creative on, I still want to get the messages out. I still want to have workouts go out." So like I had to like do backpack workouts and film my son had to film me. And it was like a huge production almost of being on social media, give a message every week on video, which I never thought I'd do. So I was really out there in that 20, 21, 22 range. And, I just feel like it also gets me in trouble where like you might be posting a little too much maybe. And then the people you actually work with that are the closest to you don't like you anymore, or like have a resentment towards you because you're getting too much attention and it's almost outglowing the team.
Right.
So like that, to me, maybe that didn't happen, but that's maybe how, looking back at it now, I do. And I've been more just reserved the last few years on social media and just post a motivational quote in my Instagram story every now and then. And people share some pages out of the book I wrote and I'll reshare it or something. But yeah, I've just been taking more of a back seat on all that much more lately.
Yeah, I think, I've had this conversation a lot. I've had it, obviously with you. I think if you always maintain a level of education, like I'm trying to give back, I'm trying to help, I'm trying to share my players or uplift my players or things like that, I think there's definitely a place for it. I also think it's a great place to learn sometimes and pick up and watch Lew Caralla freaking doing a midnight workout or do something along those lines, right? Or Alex doing a beach workout. Like I love the creativity of that. I love the, getting ideas and those types of things. I think when it consumes you, you're trying to, it's a production and you're trying to make it something that, that outshines maybe the organization or what the mission is or things like that. That's when it's a problem, right? And I think what people don't realize is there's ways to do that, right? Like, like I wrote in my book that if you would have sent me a tweet, I would have punched you in the face. Like there's a time I thought it was the dumbest thing in the world, right? But now, like even, a month ago, I started a TikTok account that I never thought I would do, but I'm never on it. Like I create the content, I share it to a scheduler and I post it and I'm never on it, and I think that's where the line is, right? Like, be where your feet are, like you're saying, Alex, and make sure that you're conscious of when you're posting and things like that. Like it's going to go out at 9 o'clock at night. So that's a way somebody doesn't think that I'm not working and focused on my team or, things like that. But, I think if you're giving back, you're giving education, you're uplifting your teammates and whatnot, there is a level of creating a brand that goes with you throughout your career that is going to help you in those interviews. Because there's been times where, like I remember specifically going to Eastern Michigan and I got a lot of credibility because I walked in there with 10,000 followers on Twitter. I didn't know, they didn't know me from nothing. They just knew that I had 10,000 followers on Twitter, the team did, right? And so there was a little bit of a buy-in there that wasn't there. So I think it can be used in a good way. And I think for your career, I think it's it's a positive, but it's got to be done the right way for sure. And it's got to be authentic to you as well. And I know that you guys both believe that. What other advice do you guys have for just, coaches that are trying to follow the path that you follow, that you're walking, the ups, the downs? You guys have both had them. I've had them. It's getting harder to find young coaches that want to get in this field and go through what we've gone through. And to deal with, a coach asking you to do something maybe you don't want to do, or having to put that much investment in players. Like, what advice do you have for those coaches that are getting into the field now? Go ahead and start off, Luke. Alex, that's fine.
My advice would be sometimes you could get caught on the daily tasks that we have each and every day because we're going to work really long hours, incredibly grateful and love what we do. So we're able to sustain that. You have to be very motivated to learn on your free time, on your own, outside of what your daily responsibilities look like. Sometimes we could get so lost in the hamster wheel of getting in the routine of doing what we have to do every single day. Before you know it, you could be exhausted at the end of the day. But it's really important to stay structured and continue to, sharpen blind spots that you may have, just like our athletes. We have, Coach Perry, who's a strength coach here, always says it all the time, right? Identify and eliminate weaknesses. And that's one thing as coaches, we have to do that. We have to do a great job of ourselves on what areas do we need to grow in? How could we make sure that we structure the time accordingly to, enhance our strengths and turn those weaknesses into strengths and continue to get better and better and better. And then also, one thing for me, I'm incredibly grateful and I feel like the luckiest person alive to have my wife and my daughter. And I've always gotten the best advice ever from so many coaches in the past. You're going to give it your all from 4 a.m. till 6 p.m., right? Well, on the car ride home, you better get jacked up because you got to be the best husband and the best father. And I think that's something that's really important that I take dear to my heart. And I'll never let that go. And I think that's really, really important advice because you gotta be, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And you got to be great in all areas. And those areas are the most important areas as well. So it's really important to have that balance.
Yeah, I always say that if your home team's not right, whatever team you're working with has no chance.
I love that.
And if it's skewed, like to be great at anything, it's going to be skewed, right? So it's never going to be 50-50. But the key is that if you're home, 30 and you're at work at 70, right? That 30%, you better be 100% present, and that's the difference. A lot of times we take our work home, we're not there, that 30%, we're distracted, we're doing other things, and we're not being 100% present for the family. So I agree with that 100%. Lou, what advice you got?
I think the other side too, like, is just be prepared for the dark side of the profession. Like, for example, like Ron McKeefery was in the national championship at Washington and then was not the head strength coach at Alabama with his head coach. Like that's unfathomable to me. Like that can't happen. Like that's like the worst situation of all time. You finally get your best friend as your boss and then you can't go with them for some reason. But anyways, I've been let go numerous times for no reason. Obviously, we all know it just happens and it's the way that the game goes. But that's not easy on your kids. Like, that's not easy on your wife. That's actually the worst thing ever for their life. So, and now that it's happened so many times, we're like numb to it. But it's just starting over all the time, getting to a point where you're like, is this the one we're going to stop at? Or is this where are we going to go live if we don't do this? Like, what if I miss the boat in December and I can't get on somewhere? Like, these are all questions you got to have backup plans for. And I've been absolutely just lucky to have had 6 straight head jobs after getting let go certain spots. And it's just the way it worked out and the timing. I knew people, but I will also say this, don't ever underestimate your connections. Like, I was an intern for Ron McKeefery for 3 months as a 22-year-old. And he got me my first head job 6 years later at North Texas. That's the only time I worked for him, though. I just made sure I stayed thankful for him. I made sure I kept in touch with him. I made sure I always wrote him like anything possible that I could keep in touch with him about. And that's the same thing for everyone I've worked for. You have to make sure that every connection you make, you never know how they can help you one day. So just be a good person wherever you're at.
Yeah, and I think what I always tell coaches is you got to plan for the periods of transition, because it's the periods of transition that get people out of the profession, right? And if you don't have a foundation, you don't have multiple revenue streams, you haven't been good with your money, you don't have a plan of where your family's going to be or how you're going to go about that, stress that comes with that is unsurmountable, and it breaks a lot of people. And so it's not always the case. Like, you didn't get fired 6 times because you were a bad strength coach. It's just the wins weren't there, or the situation wasn't great, or whatever it was, or the contract situation with me with going to Bama and those types of things. Like, those things happen. They're part of the field, and you're gonna see these ups and downs throughout, and you have to be prepared and have a solid foundation to handle those low points, or it is gonna kick you in the freaking groin, and it's gonna be tough. But you guys are doing it at a super high level. Again, my whole intent in this was, I know the great people that are on the screen with me that I'm sharing this with, and I know the work that you do in those moments. Like, I was like, I advocated for both you guys in a positive way, because I was like, man, these are 2 great coaches trying to get everything out of their team. Like, I don't understand what we're trying to do here. And I think that's important. I think the number one message for people in this is pause, ask questions, reach out to people. Don't take things in a bubble and just make a snap decision. Have a conversation and figure out what's there, and understand that, like, if you're going to have sustainability in this field, like, you're going to have these moments where you're outside of what people think is right and wrong. And that's when great things happen. A lot of times that's when great things happen, is when you push the envelope a little bit, and you also learn from some things as well. And I know we've all done that as well.
Well, coach, like, also, for example, like, if you ask anything, if you pause and ask anything, like I asked this one guy that I used to work with that worked with Alex, and was like, hey, how is Alex? Like, how is he? Dude, he's the best person I've ever met. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you ask, you find out.
That's right.
And it's like, I know all this stuff out there, or people that say, oh, well, he talks about winning or something, like, but they didn't win. Like, okay, gotcha, bud. So, like, the point is, you're trying to instill a mindset into your kids. And what are you going to talk about? Losing? Hey, guys, let's lose. Like, Like, come on now. And if you ever reached out, or if you ever talked to me, or if you ever came to visit and watched a workout, guarantee you wouldn't be hating.
That's right.
Same thing on anything Alex is doing on the sideline or whatever. He's just a stand-up dude. So it's like all that stuff is just, it is what it is.
Yeah, 100%. I think you guys, you do it the right way. And I think, like you said, if you just went and spent a little bit of time with people, then you would see that. And I think that's important. I think that's, again, the important thing to take away from all this is that get to know people, celebrate people's wins, celebrate the profession. It is such a hard profession to be a part of. It should be this camaraderie that we're all rooting for one another. And a rising tide raises all ships, but it doesn't always seem to be the case. And that part of it, I don't get. And so I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the way that you go about your business. I appreciate just the friendship, and excited to watch where both you guys' careers go and be a part of it in small ways. Thanks a lot for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
Coach, I can't thank you enough, and I'm really, really grateful, and never take for granted coaches like you and Coach Jay Hooten, who taught me everything, and all the unbelievable coaches, Coach Lew. Like I said, from afar, extremely inspired by what you do, and you've presented so many learning opportunities that you don't even realize. So I can't thank you enough for allowing me to be on this and getting to speak to both of you, and I look forward to keeping this thing going.
So, man, appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you guys
Coach.
very much.